Have you been told just to think positive when you're in pain, anxious, or exhausted? If so, you're not alone and you are not wrong to feel frustrated. In this video, I'm sharing why real healing is about processing emotions instead of pretending that we're fine and helping our nervous system feel safe enough to heal. Hi, I'm Rose Stewart and I work with people experiencing TMS or neuroplastic pain who have symptoms ranging from back and neck pain, digestive issues to tingling and numbness. Wellness culture these days might make you think that you need to have, positive vibes only, that you manifest through a positive mindset, and you even see people getting around with those t-shirts or hoodies saying high vibes only. It's also common to hear people say things like mind over matter and that we shouldn't be saying or thinking anything that's negative. But as we move through this video, we'll talk more about why these mindsets can actually fuel TMS symptoms, as trying to be positive all the time tends to lead to more people-pleasing, striving for perfection, and needing to be seen as always happy, always positive, always accommodating, and needing to be seen as always happy, always positive, and always okay. I certainly used to think that being positive all the time used to make me a better girlfriend, friend, colleague, sibling, etc. But it really didn't, and probably had the opposite effect and tended to push people away. I did this by suppressing my emotions and pretending that I was fine when I wasn't, pretending that I wasn't disappointed or upset when I actually was. But it was like the other people around me knew that I wasn't being authentic and I had my walls up. And so therefore it didn't bring us closer, it just pushed us further apart. And it seemed that the harder I tried, the bigger the gap got between me and other people because they realized that I wasn't being authentic. I also remember working with a particular client who really struggled to express any negative thoughts or emotions because she truly had the belief that talking about negative things or expressing them would bring more negativity. And whilst she wasn't able to name things and be able to truly express her emotions, the healing was slow. Eventually, over time, when she understood more about the healing journey, she was able to express her emotions more honestly, and then healing happened really quick and really quite profoundly. It's important to know that our bodies aren't looking for feelings of positivity all the time or positive thoughts, but more so looking for safety and honesty. For many people, trying to be positive is the exact thing that probably leads them down the path of having TMS and having symptoms, because they're putting on a happy face and they're smiling and saying that everything is okay when it's not. And people who have TMS tend to be those lovely people, those people who are always trying to make everyone else feel comfortable, and the helpful can-do types. I think this quote by Steve Ovanovich explains this concept really well, and he said, TMS pain is a purposeful distraction created by the brain as a favour to the mind-body, which enables the self to avoid having to think about dark, morbid, resentful, vengeful and selfish thoughts. Life continues, emotions buried alive. And the point there, I think that's really important here, is that emotions buried alive and what that does to the mind-body. And the way that I would describe that in very layman's terms is pretending that we're okay when we're not. And in the past, I was certainly a master at this, particularly the way I remember it playing out. And I think it happens to all of us, is that we get that sting when something happens, we get that sting of anger or disappointment or hurt. And we tend to get so good at talking ourselves down from that and saying, oh no, it's okay, it doesn't matter, it's not important, it's okay. There's bigger things to worry about, or people are in worse situations than me, and just brushing away that emotion rather than seeing it and letting it come up at all. It's just that instant reaction, it will come up. That's just our body reacting. But then it's our mind getting involved and saying, oh no, I can't think like that, must be positive, which then leads to bigger problems. So what's happening is that we're effectively shutting down what is naturally there and what is wanting to come up with positivity rather than accepting and allowing what is in that moment. And if we can, it's really great in those moments when we notice that sting, and if we have the opportunity to at least acknowledge it a little bit. So, there's anger, there's fear, there's anxiety. And perhaps we don't have time to always sit down and journal things out right in that moment, but just at least that acknowledgement that you did feel something, and also making that mental note that you will come back and sort through it later, is a really important step to healing. So I want to give you an example of how I've often seen this play out with people around me and clients, which is likely to happen to somebody who's committed to being positive all the time and being positive all the time and being a great colleague and always wanting to be upbeat and helpful. So this may play out as somebody who works in an office and their boss comes along, it's getting late in the day, and they say, there's a really important report that we need to get done tomorrow. This is how I think we need to go about it, and it's due at midday tomorrow. So the person who always wants to be positive goes, oh yeah, absolutely, sure, I can do that. I'll get onto it now. Yeah, so what are you thinking? They make a plan and off that person goes to do the work. But inside their mind, they're thinking to themselves, I don't agree with the approach to this. Everyone else is packing up and going home. It's not fair. I'm going to have to stay and do it. I have plans tonight that I'm going to have to cancel. And why doesn't Joe over there do it? Why do I have to do everything? And having all of these thoughts, but on the outside saying, yeah, absolutely sure, I'll get it done. And not expressing that they're not happy to do that work in such a tight timeline without any help, or that they don't agree with the approach that is being taken for the report, but putting on a happy face and saying, sure, I'll do it, I'll get on with it. And everyone thinks, great, there's no problems. But inside, that person has suppressed all of those emotions and thoughts because of their commitment to being positive. And as you'll probably know, if you've delved into the work of TMS and neuroplastic pain, when situations like this play out, it will be quite common for that person to then experience digestive issues, tension, headaches, pain where they often have pain, whether it's in their back or neck, because their emotions are expressing in the mind-body. So I want to talk now specifically about negative thoughts and that belief particularly that negative thoughts lead to negative outcomes. And I actually have a huge problem with that belief around you are what you think. And the reason for that is because as humans, we have a negativity bias, and there is a reason for that. And it's natural for us to have scary thoughts or warning thoughts that are there as a mechanism to help keep us safe. I remember reading Alan Gordon's book, The Way Out, and he tells a magnificent story. He's a brilliant storyteller, so I do recommend his book, particularly the Audible version, because he narrates it and he's such a good storyteller. But the story goes like this, and I won't do it justice. But it's a story about two zebras, and one is called Nervous Nick. And Nervous Nick is very nervous, as the name suggests, and he's always listening out for things and jumping almost to the worst conclusion that if there's a sound, that's probably danger. And so he's often looking around and not so relaxed, but on high alert for anything that might go wrong. And then there's another guy called Fearless Frank. And Fearless Frank is very blasé. He's just munching away at the grass and having a great old time and not worrying about the rustling in the bushes or things that might cause him danger because he's having such a great time. Anyway, as you can imagine, the story goes on, and Nervous Nick hears some rustling in the branches and he's gone, and it turns out that it was a lion in the branches, and Fearless Frank didn't fare so well. So you can see that Nervous Nick's negative thoughts and his bias towards reacting to them actually kept him safe, and that's the mechanism that is happening in our brain. So not that I'm saying that we all need to be like Nervous Nick, but there is a real purpose for those more negative or those more warning thoughts, and it's really just about acknowledging them, noticing them, and sort of going, okay, that thought's to try and keep me safe, but it's okay, I don't need to buy into it. In an earlier video, which I'll link below, I talked about how negative repetitive thoughts, and I explained in that video that when we resist thoughts and struggle with them and try and push them away, our brain kind of notices this and tags those thoughts as dangerous. And what it'll do is it'll bring those thoughts back around just to keep us safe. So just reminding us of this negative thought that we don't want to think about, or this thought that we're resisting, because it's trying to just bring it around again to say, I'm just reminding you of this so you stay safe. So think of Nervous Nick, you can see how that plays out. Now again, it's really important to say, I'm not asking you to dwell on negative thoughts, not at all, but rather acknowledging what is and what is coming up and giving yourself the chance to process the thoughts, process the emotions that are coming up, rather than struggling with them and trying to push them away. So instead of forcing yourself, or at least trying to force yourself to feel good all the time, it might be helpful to ask something like, what would help me to feel safe and heard right now? And doing that in a journaling session or in a meditation. Or of course, as I often recommend, also somatic tracking, because somatic tracking really does bring you into your body and what is now and what your body is feeling now and what's happening in your body from a place of what is an acceptance, rather than pretending things are different or trying to make it any different or push things away. And it's important to remember that healing comes from that place of kindness, compassion, and allowing what is, rather than the struggle and the push and the commitment of forcing ourselves to be positive all the time. So if you're looking for a journal prompt, and this brings in parts therapy a little bit, you might like to ask yourself something like, what part of me feels like it needs to be positive all the time, and write on that. So thank you for listening today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'd really love to hear in the comments about your experiencing. So thank you for listening to today's video. I hope you've taken something away from it, and I'd love to hear in the comments about how allowing acceptance and curiosity has helped you in your healing journey. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again soon.